So you want to visit Africa, Asia, and the Middle East, but are short on time? Well, hang tight. We'll show you a Caribbean island where you can get a taste of all these cultures, plus a pretty good party to boot.
Travel. For some, it's a luxurious escape, or maybe an adrenaline-filled adventure. But if you're like me, it's a precious opportunity to discover and to give back. It's time to get real. It's time to get raw. It's time for Raw Travel. The islands of Trinidad and Tobago are probably the most diverse and unique islands in all of the Caribbean. It's like visiting several countries all rolled up into one. Touristy, but not really.
When I was first doing research on Trinidad, there's really not a lot of information out there because it's really not considered a very touristy destination, at least outside of Carnival. And that's really the main reason I wanted to come here. I wanted to come here and get a sense of the culture. There's just so many influences here. I mean, sometimes I feel like I'm in Great Britain, sometimes I feel like I'm in India, sometimes in Jamaica or Asia. And being from New York, I really like that.
With a total population of 1.3 million, Trinidad and Tobago, or TNT, is a melting pot of traditions and cultures. The capital city, Port of Spain in Trinidad, reflects that diversity. From its many churches, mosques, and temples to Independence Square, where you can see a palette of colors and ethnicities. If you decide to hit up the sister island of Tobago, then you can just jump on the ferry for a quick and scenic boat ride. Port of Spain also has some good spots for day trips. Maracas Bay is a nearby and popular hangout for Trinis looking to escape the city for a day. Families head to the beach to swim or play soccer and, of course, cricket. Artisans sell their wares, and it's a good place to just chill and enjoy the hot island sun. Maracas Bay is also a good spot to try the famous bacon shark. Shark cooked in deep-fried batter and served in a bun that Trinis call bake.
A food that really typifies Trinidad and Tobago is the bacon shark. And I'm here at Richard's Bacon Shark, which is world famous. But what makes this place special is it has a lot of condiments so you can really customize your sandwich. Whew, man, that bacon shark was good. But man, I don't know what kind of condiment I put on there, but it was spicy. It was really, really hot. My mouth is on fire, but it was good.
On the way back from the beach, you can stop at Lookout Point to catch the beautiful view and sample some candies and sweets native to the islands. Now, I was wondering why Trinidad's capital is called Port of Spain when everyone here speaks English. So I visited the Spanish-influenced Lopino village just outside of Port of Spain to find out more.
Okay, so Arthur, Trinidad has so many different influences, but the capital is called Port of Spain. Why is that?
Well, Spanish discovered Trinidad through Columbus in 1498.
Okay.
Right? So the Spanish came here, they met the Amerindians.
Right.
Right?
Right.
And then they established their capital in a place called St. Joseph.
Okay.
Which is away from the coast.
Right.
Right? Mm-hmm. And then eventually when trade began to build up,
yeah, they
decided to need the capital on the sea line.
Okay.
Right? So they established the Port of Spain.
The Port of Spain.
Puerto de España.
The island's Hispanic influence is most apparent around Christmas, when groups of people go house to house singing Christmas carols called parangs, which is derived from the Spanish word parranda.
And people speak Spanish still in the village?
Not as much as when the original settlers came. Like my grandparents, my mother and father, they spoke Spanish, but then they always spoke Spanish to not let us know what they were speaking about.
Oh, yeah, they did it for a purpose.
That's
All right,
right.
That makes sense.
Yeah.
Sort of why people speak Spanish around me, I think, sometimes.
Yeah.
Many Spanish-speaking Trinis have roots from Venezuela, where their forefathers came over in search of a better life.
They came here originally to plant cocoa and coffee.
Okay.
So they came across Venezuela at its closest point to Trinidad, just 7 miles away.
Oh, wow.
So they just jump on a pirogue and they come over.
Oh, okay.
In fact, if you go down to Iquitos, which is in the south of Trinidad,
right,
you'll still see Spanish people coming, Venezuelans coming on the boats and going back and forth.
They still go back and forth.
And drinking Carib and everything.
So it's safe to say that among all the other influences in Trinidad, the Spanish influence is still pretty strong here.
Still pretty strong.
And then around here, visitors can come, get a taste of Spanish culture.
That's right.
And you actually have a guest house, a bed and breakfast.
That's right. At Mariposa, we try to preserve the culture and the cuisine and everything, so they get a taste of the food that we serve.
Yeah.
And then the singing and everything.
And you sing for them like you sang for me?
That's what we do.
Oh, that's cool, man.
With so many different ethnic groups influencing the islands, perhaps the most widespread is the African influence. Like most West Indian islands, Trinidad has a tragic history of slavery. In the heart of Port of Spain, you'll find the colorful store African Trophies, which is helping to preserve and restore Trinidad's African roots.
Fitzgerald, can you tell me a little bit about the history of Africans, how they came to Trinidad?
The slaves that came to the West Indies and South America were largely from West Africa.
And then after slavery, they turned to indentured servitude here, which is how a lot of East Indians came.
That's right. They began importing Indians as indentured laborers.
Right. So would it be safe to say that the majority of Trinis here that live here now are descendants of either slaves or indentured servants?
If you say that the majority are from both groups.
That's right.
Yes.
That's right.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay.
African Trophies has a rare collection of drums from Ghana and other African nations. This one is a ceremonial drum from the Ashanti ethnic group and costs $25,000. But don't worry, the store is full of one-of-a-kind, less expensive things like gamba hats and beautiful African art as well. With every item, you can learn more about Africa's rich history and influence on the islands.
Today, do Trinis, do they keep in touch with their African roots, in your opinion?
Certainly not.
No.
You are taught history, but history of Africa is not taught in the primary schools, secondary schools, or else.
And I understand there's even a law in the books to this day that prohibits African drumming after 10 p.m.,
After 10
correct?
p.m.
At this gem of a store, you can find beaded tables, thread art, musical instruments, a unique selection of books, textiles, ceramics, and they even have exclusive ivory pieces used solely for display and educational purposes. African Trophies feels more like a well-curated museum than a store.
This is called a unity carving.
Okay.
It's carved from one piece of wood.
Oh, wow.
Every one of these heads here is completely free of the other.
Oh, wow.
They are not joined in any way.
Incredible.
If one breaks,
Yeah.
the thing falls apart.
Oh, it does. So.
It's a demonstration of unity is strength.
Right.
If there is one thing that personifies Trinidad and Tobago's good time culture, it's Carnival. The celebration is legendary and attracts revelers from all over the world. Stay tuned and we'll learn more about the famous Carnival celebrations. And I'll attempt to dazzle the world by playing the steel pan drum. Before my travels to Trinidad and Tobago, I'd heard about the diversity of its people. Perhaps the best way to experience the melting pot of cultures on the island is during the annual Carnival celebration.
Since the 1800s, once a year, the biggest attractions and events happen all across the two islands. Hundreds of thousands of people gather to celebrate Carnival, the most colorful expression of TNT culture. With such elaborate costumes and such a grand production, the organizers have their hands full.
We are the National Carnival Band Association of Trinidad and Tobago, the NCBA.
Okay.
We are also the body that has been recognized by the government to really make charge of all carnival events and run the carnival in a smooth way and the development of our carnival. It involves the entire nation at some point in time.
And it's almost a year-round preparation, not quite, but almost, right?
Well, it has evolved into that.
Preparation for Carnival goes on all year. Its participants, or Mas players, go all out to show off their costumes and dance skills. And if you're from out of town, no worries. You're welcome to join the party.
We welcome all foreigners because it's a sort of competition to see how many foreigners we could have in our band. It's always something that you feel good about when you have foreigners coming to participate in your festival.
Wow.
You know, it's something that you really feel good about.
Wow. Does it get bigger and bigger every year?
Well, we have as much as one band having 6,000 people in it.
Wow.
One band.
Wow.
Right? And we have about 4 or 5 bands that will have that kind of capacity.
They also have junior bands from the local schools, as well as an academy of artists. It seems like the entire country participates in Carnival.
Once One type of music played to celebrate this month-long event is soca.
In the early 1990s, Mr. William Monroe created the National Soca Monarch, a competition and party like no other.
Could you tell us a little bit about the roots of soca music and how it has grown over the years? Like, where does it stem from?
No, it stems from Calypso, you know, because it have two gentlemen, well, both of them now deceased, you know, that was Ras Shorty, I don't know if you heard the name, and Maestro. Okay. And they mix it, they incorporate the Indian music with the Calypso, and they merge it, and it came out with the beats.
Okay.
We call it the soca
rhythm. Would you say soca is the most popular music in Trinidad?
But I want to say it is the most infectious music today in the world.
Okay.
People from all over the world come as spectators and participants. Mr. Monroe has traveled to many West Indian islands to promote soca music and has created franchises in other countries as well.
Soca Monarch, are you ready? Let's go! Soca Monarch!
There is Soca Monarch in all the islands.
Right, okay.
The carnival. And it is the #1 event, all the carnival in the Caribbean. Soca Monarch is the #1 event.
Okay, okay.
But you have to come to carnival because not the infectiousness, not only the Trinidadian, you know, the foreigner. If you come, you of yourself will want to know how you leaping so high, because it's melodious.
Yes.
And it's lyrical and it's beautiful.
Right.
And it is, I mean, it enhances you, it free up your mind, man. And
but if there's one thing that defines Carnival, it's the steel pan. You can hear its distinct sound wafting through the streets of Port of Spain year-round. The Invaders Steel Pan Band is perhaps the oldest existing steel pan orchestra in the world. They are a staple of Carnival and the Panorama competitions where the best of the steel pan bands compete.
The steel pan is very important for Carnival, correct?
Oh, definitely, yeah, because it was one of the original instruments with Carnival.
You know, for what purpose was it invented?
Well, what happened is that the history of Trinidad and Tobago, right? Remember that we had slaves from Africa in Trinidad. They used to play their drums, but that was banned because that was a form of communication.
Okay.
And eventually somebody picked up one of these drums and hit it out of, shape, and it started to get different tones. And they started to work with that, and eventually got a whole instrument.
Wait. Oops. That didn't sound too good, did it?
My natural musical prowess continues to astound cultures the world over. The steel pan is used for many genres of music, like Calypso. It's also one of the most difficult instruments to tune.
You can literally taste TNT's diversity through its food. Coming up, I get to sample pig's feet, chicken feet, cow heel soup, and more. And then we get to check out the only punk band in the entire country, Anti-Everything. Together we aspire, together we achieve. That's the motto behind the coat of arms of Trinidad. You know, whenever I travel, I'm always curious about the flags from the different countries. They all have a very special meaning.
The red part of the flag represents the vigor of the nation, the kindliness and bravery of the Trimbagonian people. The black line is the wealth of the land, as well as the union and strength of the community. And the white line represents the ocean and equality for all. Lots of Asians moved to Trinidad in the 1800s, and Chinese food here is the real deal. But if you're looking for a virtual buffet of authentic Trini treats, hit up the St. James area at night. My friend Randall took me to a good spot to sample some of the popular East Indian staple, roti.
What kind of roti, what kind do they have?
They have chicken, beef, you can get goat. So what they do in here is they're just rolling out some of the dough.
Okay.
It's similar to pizza dough, I guess, right?
Yeah.
And they just make it into little balls here.
Yeah.
And then they flatten it out. After they roll it out, they bring it across here. to the tower. They call this a tower.
Is this how they do it in India, as far as you know, or?
No, it's not exactly like this. We have our own way of doing it. Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna give it a try, man.
Yeah, try it. What do you think? Pretty good, right?
That's good.
The pepper is adding a nice kick to it, right?
A little spice.
Yeah. It definitely complements the curry flavor.
Yeah, absolutely, man. I love Indian food, man. Who would think that you get some Indian food here in the Caribbean? Like, I don't know.
I think that.
Yeah, you think that because you know.
In St. James, they give fast food new meaning with an array of quick, cheap, but absolutely delicious treats. Randall insisted I try the pig's foot souse. Now, I grew up in the southern U.S., but I can honestly say this was my first time to try pig's feet.
Like it? Take your time and absorb everything.
And probably my last.
Yeah, it's pretty good. It is pretty good. What is that though? Is that flesh?
I'm a horrible liar, and that fatty pig skin was not for me. So we tried some things that were more, traditional.
So let's try maybe some of the macaroni.
Randall and his pals also took me to Queens Park Savannah, a local hangout where you can sample a wide selection of authentic food and fresh juices. The guys wanted me to start with a Guinness sea moss shake. It's a thick concoction that consists of Guinness beer, condensed milk, sea moss, granola oat, and a little something extra that was supposed to give me, let's just say, some extra energy.
I feel like I'm having breakfast and I'm like drinking a beer at the same time, man.
It's like happy hour at breakfast. Or is that breakfast at happy hour? Queens Park Savannah is a great place to take in the diversity of Trinidad. You can eat Jamaican jerk chicken, Cow Hill soup from, well, does it really matter? It's made from a cow's hoop, for God's sake. Boiled chicken feet, and something called falori from India. You'll see Muslims, East Indians, and more, all putting their special brand of spice in Trini foods. I'm a huge punk rock fan, and Randall and his friends have the only punk band in all of Trinidad and Tobago. So I went to their studio to check out Anti-Everything.
So what's it like to be the only punk band for an entire country?
It's lonely.
What's it like, man, when you say I'm in a punk band, or they say, oh, that's the devil's music? What do they say, man?
I don't know much about punk music, but I live a punk lifestyle, which makes me feel comfortable playing punk music because it's just as real as it could be.
What's it like being a Trini, man? That's the thing that I want to know, because here's what I've seen so far. The influences are far and wide. You've got Indian, African, Asian, British. I mean, the list really can still go on.
I think it's very much twofold. On one hand, you have all these ethnic and historical diversity and cultural diversity.
Right.
But on the other hand, I mean, as an independent nation, we're less than half a century old. We're a very young country. So, you know, you shouldn't talk about culture like it's set in stone.
Right.
And it's not fair to say punk rock isn't Trinidadian culture, because we don't have a Trinidadian culture. We're a young nation still building an identity. So I think that's the part we have to play in the overall landscape of what it is to be a Trini.
I want to be able to talk Trini by the time I leave here. Can you tell me some basic terms?
Drop the last consonant from a lot of words. Words especially end in ing. So say,
we're not liming. We're
liming. Or we drink in. We eat in. You know.
Okay.
We drum in.
Okay.
I
think a useful word for you to know is mama guy. Just try to
Mama
say
guy.
Mama guy. That's like to patronize someone.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
In a bad way.
Yeah.
Okay. Mama guy.
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing I noticed. Like people in Trinidad, they don't really mama guy you that much.
As a Trinidadian, you don't know the word us. It's always we.
We be doing this, we be doing that.
Yeah.
All right, that's cool. So those are some particular Trini words that I can start with and drop the last consonant?
Consonant.
Yeah, consonant. So example, instead of saying fast, I say fast.
Yeah.
Is that it? Man, all right. Well, dudes, I love your music, man. I can't wait to hear it live. And, all I got to say is, it might be lonely, but you got to keep up the fight, man.
Definitely.
Did Did you know that baseball has its roots from cricket? And if you thought baseball games were long, a cricket game can last for over a week. Stay tuned as I get ready to try and school some Trinis on their most popular sport.
Here's a suggestion. Before you travel, brush up on the local slang. In Trinidad, they have a very unique vocabulary. For example, lyman means to hang out. And if you have a good meal, then you can say it was lashing. And if something's a little weak, then you can say it's soft. If you like, hook up with a local on a social networking site and they can fill you in.
Trinidad and Tobago is famous for a lot of things. Limbo, the steel pan, and of course, Carnival. But when it comes to sports, cricket is a passion like no other. Trini cricket legend Brian Charles Lara is a local hero and has a statue in downtown Port of Spain.
So Andre, can you tell me a little bit about the history of cricket here in Trinidad?
Sure. Well, cricket has been around for a long, long time, and it's one of the most popular games. In fact, it's the most popular game in the Caribbean.
Okay.
It's been around since the 1800s, when most of the islands, which of course includes Trinidad, were under British rule.
Okay.
So the club that we are in at the moment is the Queens Park Cricket Club.
Okay.
It's the oldest club in the Caribbean, and it's been established since 1891.
There are two versions of this game, a long version which can go as long as 5 days, and a much shorter, more rapidly paced version that lasts a few hours.
Yeah, I don't think the games that last for 5 days, I'm not sure if that's going to make it in the United States or not, but maybe the 2 hours.
So Andre convinced me I should give the game of cricket a try, and he hooked me up with the right equipment.
So today we're going to learn a little bit about batting. You grip the bat on the handle.
Okay.
Your left hand over right. Are you a right-hander?
Yes, I'm right-handed.
Okay, so it's going to be your left hand over right like that.
Okay.
And your batting stance is very much unlike baseball. It's not up here.
Right.
It's actually down there.
Almost
okay?
like golf.
It's something like golf. Yeah, just a bit like golf.
Okay.
Just before the bowler gets to you, you pick up behind you.
Okay.
And as the ball approaches you, you follow through with the swing.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay.
So you see, normally it won't fit through there.
Right. Unless you
Okay,
go really
yeah.
hard.
Yep.
I'm gonna show this cricket know-it-all up.
I'ma knock this Yankee rookie over.
Focus, focus. Yeah. Oops.
Now for my wicked curveball.
Thank God he doesn't know I sucked at baseball. I'm even worse at golf.
80 miles per hour should do it.
Oh, man. Oh, man.
Well, I'm no Brian Lara, and turns out Andre's young daughters play better than me. But not to fear. I'll be back, Andre. I'll be back.
I can't wait to get back, actually. Trinidad may look small on a map, but trust me when I say we've just begun to scratch the surface of this unique destination. And the sister island of Tobago, with its lush natural beauty, is a must visit. Join us again when we continue our exploration of the diverse, fascinating, and beautiful island nation of Trinidad and Tobago.